Um, and I work mostly on the building energy codes and new construction decarbonization work. But I am here today to talk about direct or elective pay for the federal IRA tax credits. And I see
All
Julie's
right,
back.
I am back. Thank you so much, Adam, for dealing with that. Sorry, my computer completely honked out on me. So without further ado, we will get started. Thanks everyone for your patience. Um, I'm just going to make sure we're recording. Looks like we are. So welcome everyone. We are here for the technical assistance portion of the MCR webinar program, this application window. And we have 4 great groups that are presenting today. And since we're getting started a little late, I will just breeze through this. We'll have on-site energy taps with DOE. NREL's community clean community program. Evan will present on that. Jeremiah will be presenting on the COSA program, Solar in Your Community, and then, as Adam said, some direct pay. And as just a very quick orientation as to where we are in the application period, we have one more after this offering of technical assistance and support through office hours on May 30th, and the application window will close mid-June with award notifications in Q4 of 2024. And so without further ado, I will pass it to Doug and Alex for their presentation. Thanks so much.
Okay, great. Well, here I'm going to go ahead and start by just sharing my screen. So bear with me here. This here, this guy here, and get going. So my name is Alex Semino-Hurt. I want to welcome everybody here. I am the Assistant Director of the On-Site Energy TAP, and Doug, my boss, is here as well. He's the Director of the On-Site Energy TAP. So let's talk about what on earth that is. So some of you might be aware of organizations, you might be in organizations or businesses that have set some clean energy goals, some energy resilience goals, and you're trying to understand kind of what kinds of technologies might be able to help you achieve those goals. Well, DOE just launched a program in January that we're leading, or at least we're leading in a particular region, in your region, that is really targeted at providing technical assistance to folks that are looking to understand how technologies might be able to help, what combination of technologies might be able to help you achieve your particular on-site energy goals. So what technologies are we talking about? Well, obviously, one of them is definitely kind of microgrids, but it could be any of these other technologies as well. There are a tremendous number of technologies that are out there, and we're really looking at providing technical assistance so that if there's any combination of technologies you want to explore for your site, you can, and you can understand what are the advantages and what are the trade-offs for your site to achieve whatever your goals are. So we do a couple different things. The first thing I mentioned is technical assistance, and that is providing a couple different levels or layers of analysis that we'll talk about a little bit later to support your understanding of on-site energy technologies. And then we do things like what we're doing today, which is end user engagement. We want to reach out to folks and make them aware of this offering and make them aware of what they can get from it. And then we do some more broader stakeholder engagement. Now, draw your attention to this map over here. Colorado, you're part of the Upper West, which is the region that Doug and I are managing right now. And so you can work with us if this is an offering that you're very interested in. So who benefits from this program? Well, the DOE is certainly focused on industrial sites, but really it could be any large energy user, including, say, a municipality that's looking to understand how on-site energy might support you in your goals. So how do we do this? Well, it's a fairly straightforward process. We do an intake interview to understand kind of what your goals are and what you want to explore, and if your site is a good candidate for this. Then, if that's the case, then we initiate an initial technical analysis, which is what we would consider to be sort of a scoping level analysis for your site. And this is to look at a broad range of technologies you might be interested in and help you understand, what alternatives might work for you. And then if it makes sense, we can also do what's called an advanced technical analysis. And this is more of an investment grade analysis for your site. Now, the process is fairly straightforward. The first step is just to reach out to us. You can email us, you can call us, and we can start in on an intake. And then we march through this process that I described. So very quickly, that's really what we have to touch on. And this is our contact information. And at this point, we're happy to take questions from folks if we like. More about the program. If you have questions about the details or the technologies we will analyze, we're happy to talk about any of that stuff. So I'm going to stop sharing it now. Let's see if this works.
I have a quick clarification that maybe you could add a little color on based on what I know about the program. Could you talk a little bit about what the end product would be of your analysis and how that could be used perhaps in lieu of a planning grant type application?
Absolutely. So I talked about these initial technical analysis and advanced technical analysis. So what is the product there? It is a report that is substantiated. It's a DOE funded analysis. We have an analysis team that's going to work with you on collecting your site data and really trying to understand, gosh, what makes sense for your site? Maybe it's a combination of renewables and battery storage to create a microgrid, for example. And that comes in a report that you can bring and you can include potentially as an appendix in an application process. As I understand it, there's a lot of funding available. One thing I want to be very clear about is that, the analysis is what we offer. We don't have a tie on funding that comes with this program. But this analysis and these different depths of analysis can slot in very nicely with some of the grant applications you might have for either state level funding or other federal funding. And an example of that is there's something called an IAC implementation grant, for which this is a good appendix that will really move you through that process. So it's a nice, well put together report that gives you, the initial one gives you kind of a scoping level of, hey, what combinations make sense? And then if you decide to go, and it makes sense to do a deeper dive, you can get more of an investment grade analysis of a particular set of technologies. Okay. Any other questions?
And all of this info will be recorded and put on our website. And there also are links on our technical assistance webpage to all of these folks already. So there should be lots of ways to contact them.
Absolutely. And, we already have, even though the program has started in January, of course, there's a lot of a learning curve going on. We already have a lot of people from Colorado that have started to reach out to us about this offering. And we're excited to collaborate and work with you. And hopefully this helps you all understand what you need and gets there. So with that, I think we're done with our piece. We can do short and brief and catch up on the schedule and let other folks talk a little bit unless they have questions.
Greg, did you have a quick question?
Yeah, I had a quick question. I think we've already reached out from Westminster, but how long does it take to get this done? Because June is just around the corner.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the initial technical analysis is supposed to take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get done. So let's back out the timeline, right? That's to get that done. So 2 to 4 weeks before that, what we have to have submitted is a data analysis form. And that includes things like monthly site consumption, major energy using equipment on the site, so that we can profile really how energy is used on a site and how the system might make sense. That can take a couple hours to fill out, or like an hour meeting and then some follow-up over the course of a week. So I would say all told, from intake to ITA, anticipate 3 to 5 weeks.
Okay, so we need to get going now if we're going to have this by June.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we've got a meeting set up with you, but I just wanted to check the timeline. Thanks.
Sure thing,
Cool.
Greg.
And Greg, we can talk a little bit more, but you can put things in your application as you're drafting it to say, hey, we're working with DOE TAPS on this. We're estimating this range of things. We'll be able to submit that, a little bit perhaps after the application window. We're flexible as to like exactly what amount of detail you're giving us at the time of submission. So we can talk a little bit more if it's going to seem a little tight.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, on to Evan. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, great. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
So let me just share my slides here. All right, perfect. Well, thank you, Julia, for the invite. I'm Evan Savage. I'm project manager at the National Renewable Energy Lab, or NREL, in the Accelerated Deployment and Decision Support Group. I'm also one of the community leads for the C2C Expert Match Program, and I'm looking forward to telling you about clean energy to communities. So C2C, or Clean Energy to Communities, grew out of a project that NREL did for the city of Los Angeles called LA100. That was analysis to support their decision-making process around a number of different pathways to achieving 100% clean energy. And that was looking at more than just the clean power sector, but also mobility, the grid, buildings, and serving a number of different goals, including climate mitigation, resilience, jobs, and energy justice. And following that project, the Department of Energy asked NREL to design a program that could provide this similar kind of analysis that was done for the city of Los Angeles to a much wider range of communities around the country, and that program is C2C. C2C provides cross-cutting technical solutions that are meant to address whatever clean energy goals a community has and comes to us with. So they can be, these things on the slide, energy justice, climate mitigation, resilience, jobs. And the analysis is meant to be cross-cutting, so not focusing on just one of these sectors, but looking at a holistic plan to support clean energy goals. And C2C is funded through DOE, through the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, and NREL is the primary technical assistance coordinator, but we work with a number of other national labs as well to deliver TA. So technical assistance at NREL can take a number of different forms, just kind of depending on what a community is looking for. So it could include sharing data or tools or trainings and webinars. It could look more like applying knowledge through analysis, modeling, markets and policy assessment, things like that. And then it can also include convening and facilitation, community engagement, or strategic planning and road mapping. So C2C has 3 levels of engagement. I'm just going to give a very brief overview of the first 2 because they're a little bit longer timeline than would be helpful for this upcoming June opportunity, but just wanted to give a quick plug for those. So in-depth partnerships is a 3-year commitment. Peer learning cohorts is 6 months, and then expert match, the project or the program that I work on, is 3 months. It kind of varies, maybe 2 to 5 months, but generally around 3 months. So in-depth partnerships, quick plug, because the second round of applications is open now. So it's an extensive set of technical assistance that's most similar to the LA100 project. So on the community side, a team of a local government, utility, and community-based organization apply with a set of clean energy goals or a specific set of problems they want to work on, and get really in-depth help from national lab staff and get to work closely with the national labs over the course of 3 years to address those problems. And it can include, road bus modeling and analysis, or hardware in the loop testing, really the whole range of what the national labs have to offer in terms of technical assistance. And it includes up to $500K in subcontractor funding, dedicated national lab contract, support with community engagement, and then up to $3.5 million in technical support from the Department of Energy. So if you have a project that this sounds like it would be a good fit for, and can form a team of the utility, local government, and community-based organization, feel free to scan the QR code or reach out to the c2c@nrel.gov email with any questions. There's a webinar tomorrow, April 18th, to learn a little bit more, and then the deadline, I guess ironically, is also June 14th for this. But very quick plug, because that's not something that would help with the MCR timeline. And then peer learning cohorts, also very briefly, is a 6-month engagement. There are 3 new cohorts every 6 months on set topics, and it's a really great way to interact with other communities from around the country. So up to 15 communities form a cohort around each of these topic areas, and they meet monthly to share strategies, share best practices, learn from each other, learn from national lab experts. So it's a really collaborative program, a really great way to share experiences from around the country and learn about modeling and tools, trainings, other things that might be helpful for different clean energy topics. So the upcoming cohorts are designing and enhancing energy efficiency programs for residential buildings, charting a path to municipal fleet electrification, and implementing an agrivoltaics project. The new set of cohorts is also now accepting applications up until April 30th. So, again, feel free to scan the QR code or reach out to me or the general email with any questions. Okay, and then just to give you a sense, these are the organizations that have communities that have participated so far over the course of 3 cohort cycles. We've reached over 115 organizations, and as you can see, it's a really wide range of communities around the country. So it's a great way to interact with other peer cities or towns that you might not otherwise usually interact with. Okay, Expert Match is the program that I work on. It's the shortest term technical assistance opportunity, and really meant to be the easiest way to engage with C2C. Expert Match provides 40 to 60 hours of technical assistance over the course of about 3 months. Expert Match is designed to provide really targeted one-on-one support, pairing an expert or an expert team with a community based on whatever their clean energy goals are, or potentially an upcoming decision or upcoming application. So it's a great way to get analysis or training or things like that to support a specific goal. And this is the program I work on, so happy to answer any questions. And also just want to flag that it's a wider range of entities that are eligible for Expert Match. So it's those that I mentioned before, like the local government, municipal or co-op utilities, tribes, community-based organizations, but also nonprofits like, for example, community colleges are eligible to apply. So a little bit wider range. It's a very easy application. I think it takes about 20 minutes. So feel free to reach out to me or the general email. And Expert Match accepts applications on a rolling basis year-round. So it's a great opportunity for any sort of clean energy project that you have coming up. And again, we've helped over 100 communities around the country on a range of different topics. And I just wanted to highlight a resilience-focused Expert Match project that I've been working on close to home for those of us in Colorado. So we've been working with Routt County. They're seeking to deploy renewable energy to offset 100% of their electric use. So their goals with this project were grid resilience, stabilizing costs for their constituents, promoting renewable energy development, and energy equity. So we did 2 parts of analysis for them. So they partnered with the towns of Hayden and Steamboat Springs to offset the loads for Routt County and those two cities. So they looked at 4 different sites. We looked at snow data, we looked at other solar potential technical factors, and then a number of different financial and incentive inputs. And of those 2 sites, narrowed it down to 2 that would be about 6 megawatts of solar. And then the second resilience focused component was a resilience hub analysis, looking at a number of different sites and then ultimately settling on the Routt County Fairgrounds as the site of a resilience hub to provide a safe place that community members can go in case of an extended outage. Great way to evaluate, kind of cross-cutting goals and a cross-cutting effort. It's also if, for example, you're looking at multiple different sites or multiple different approaches, Expert Match can be a great program for that. Routt County was considering both a microgrid for a substation and a microgrid that looked more like a resilience hub on a specific building or location. And we looked at both, and just based on the costs and grid feasibility, went down the more resilience hub analysis. But this initial analysis that we've done provided Routt County a great jumping off point to then move forward with a consultant and then later a developer. So a really good way to kind of like evaluate things early on before getting deep into the process. And then just kind of based on the question before, certainly the analysis that comes out of Expert Match or other C2C programs can be a great thing to use in grant applications. We can't support writing grant applications directly, being federally funded, but certainly lots of communities have then taken that analysis and used it to seek other opportunities. So yeah, that's the example I wanted to highlight today, but we've addressed lots of different questions across a range of different areas. So kind of no matter what clean energy goals you're looking to work on, that can be a great program for that. And happy to take questions now or at the end, whatever works for you, Julia.
Yeah, we can take questions now. Thank you so much, Evan. I know we're throwing a lot at you guys, but hopefully it's all very helpful.
Yeah, this is Greg again. I'm just trying to understand the difference between the analysis and support provided by the first guy and the analysis and support provided by NREL.
Yes, I can't speak to Doug and Alex are the experts on TAP, so feel free to jump in. In terms of C2C, this would probably less be like building specific. So there are not many cases in which we've done like building specific site visit and level analysis. It's more generally designed around modeling or data analysis or training or data sharing. So potentially a little bit earlier on in the process, more for a new project than I guess like an existing building. Although we have definitely done some projects where we're evaluating energy efficiency opportunities for older buildings. So yeah, Doug and Alex, feel free to jump in if there's any other differences you see.
I could speak to it a little bit. So actually, Evan, if you want to go back to that one of the, I think it was the previous slide or this is go forward. There you go. This is a great slide. So one of the distinctions I want to make here is that first of all, the on-site energy, we do not do energy efficiency projects. And so it's very much kind of new technology that you want to add to your site to change the energy, we'll say energy makeup or use at your site. So an example of that might be the use of an industrial heat pump or combined heat and power system, or looking at wind energy. The other thing I'm noticing is that this NREL C2C program has a much broader scope, and which is really cool to me. So you'll see, they have clean power, so there's a little bit of overlap you might think about in that respect. But then there are a bunch of other things that it seems like C2C does that we definitely don't do. We're very in the narrow box of technical assistance for that range of particular technologies for large energy using sites. So I think that's an important distinction. Whereas Evan, maybe you can speak more to this. It seems like there are a bunch of other things that you all can assess for sites.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very flexible in scope. And I think you made a great distinction. I think, you know, one other thing I'll add is that some of these are generally just a little bit earlier in the process. Expert Match can be helpful with post-project implementation with operations and maintenance. You know, that would be where that building efficiency on older buildings might come in. But generally, Expert Match is more designed for the kind of earlier planning stages of a project.
And there's no cost associated with either of these packages?
I would have to get back to you on in-depth and cohorts. I don't believe so. There's no cost for Expert Match. But let me follow up. I don't believe there's cost for others, but I just don't want to say that without being sure.
Okay,
And
great.
correct,
I
there's no
appreciate the
cost.
clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, no cost for the on-site energy program, just the time to collect data.
Great. Thank you both.
Wonderful. That was a great question. Thanks. If we don't have anything else, I think we'll switch over to Jeremiah. But if other questions arise, we may have some time right at the end. Switching gears a little bit to COSA. So Jeremiah, just let me know when you want me to flip forward.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks, Julia. Hey, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Garrick. I'm the manager of community engagement with the Colorado Solar and Storage Association. So I've been heading up a lot of the educational outreach that we've been doing recently. And to give a little bit of background on COSA, because not everyone knows what it is, we're a nonprofit established in 1989 to represent and lead the solar industry in the state. Today, we have about 300 solar and energy storage related businesses in our membership, many of whom have a role in developing or operating microgrids. Seems like everyone on this webinar probably has an idea of what microgrids are, but just to reiterate, solar energy storage are definitely a very important piece of them. Allows kind of an alternative source of energy generation, and then also a store of that power for future use. So in addition to that, solar and energy storage are going to be crucial to bring the whole grid up to date as the mix of energy generation sources and demand changes on the grid, and also to meet local, state, and federal climate goals. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Julia. So as an association, COSA saw the need for statewide education on these topics and an open forum kind of discussing with people in communities who are expecting a lot of development in the coming years. And these events are definitely tailored towards the communities that we're hosting the event in. If you've spent any time in rural Colorado, you probably know if you've been to one rural town in Colorado, you've been to one rural town in Colorado. Every community is different. And we have 350 jurisdictions in the state, just about. So while these technologies are kind of new to a lot of jurisdictions in the state, they're not really new to industry. But that education is still a very important piece of this. So for these events specifically, we've focused more on kind of large scale development in the past, but a lot of those ideas are applicable to any scale. And then, excuse me, 1 second. Sorry, I had a frog in my throat there. But a lot of those topics are really applicable to any scale. And recently we did one that was focused just on energy storage. So like I said, those kind of topics are morphing as we go to different places. But before we began hosting these events, the first outreach that a community would see from solar development was usually coming from the developer. And that can be a really concerning thing to communities, especially communities that have been taken advantage of by other industries in the past. They might not feel prepared or knowledgeable enough to make the best decision for their community about solar or energy storage. And that's definitely compounded by a lot of misinformation and bad information that can spread very quickly on the internet, things like Facebook, Nextdoor, other social medias. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Julia. So as COSA saw this happening, we decided to start putting on these kind of full day symposiums to engage the community in these discussions about the benefits of clean energy development, any real impacts of development, and what that development and construction actually looks like. So we'll talk in depth anything from permitting to construction, operations and maintenance, repowering, decommissioning, just the whole process. And today we call these events solar power and energy storage in your community. It's become kind of a series, but COSA will bring together local elected officials, municipal and county staff, economic development organizations, consultants, developers, manufacturers, first responders, state organizations, and more. And we really engage all of those attendees through expert panels and short TED-style talks from experts as well on whatever topics are most applicable. So we've really found that format to be successful, and it helps us engage with the community early and kind of lay that educational groundwork based on facts and science and help mitigate some of that spread of misinformation. We're not promoting specific projects. It's really just an opportunity for a community to come and ask all the questions that they have about solar energy storage development and learn about solar as a part of Colorado's energy future. So in the past, we've held these events in Lamar, Rifle, Sterling, Hayden, Pueblo, Grand Junction, Burlington, most recently Longmont. And we're looking to host 3 or 4 more this year. This is really just the beginning of these events as they kind of continue to evolve as we see different needs pop up around the state. So like I said, our most recent event, which took place in Longmont, drifted a bit from the just large scale solar development discussions and really focused on energy storage development. And we were able to kind of confirm that people are really hungry for that information in the state right now. And during that event, one thing that was cool is we were able to actually tour a 4 megawatt battery here in Colorado. And that gave people a really good idea of what these batteries look like when development's finished and how quiet they actually are, that kind of stuff. We had a lot of fire officials at that one talking about fire mitigation strategies for energy storage systems, and had some fire officials and commissioners who drove for even a couple hours to come to our event, which was pretty good and also confirms that people really do want this information. And even at the event, one of the county commissioners came up to me and they were like, 2 years ago, when you started these events, we didn't know anything about solar or solar development. Now we don't know anything about energy storage or energy storage development. So we're glad that you kind of continue putting on these events and helping out the communities with this educational piece. You can go to the next slide. So moving forward, there's still a great need for more education on these topics and a better statewide understanding of energy resilience and independence, especially in each individual community. So I'll kind of leave off with this fact here that was pulled from some recent bill language that Colorado will likely have to triple wind energy capacity and quintuple solar capacity by 2040 to meet the state's clean electricity goals. And so that's going to have to be rooftop, that's going to have to be microgrids and solar of all scales, battery storage, but there's a lot of moving pieces that go into that and a lot more of these discussions that need to continue happening. And so yeah, collaboration, open discussion, and education on these topics is definitely as important as ever. Next slide. And so COSA is here to help. I mean, if you're interested in this type of an event or have any questions about solar energy storage, even outside of an event series, definitely reach out to me. I got my email in the slides there. I know a lot about solar development, but certainly not everything. So if I don't know the answer to your question, I can definitely put you in touch with someone who would know the answer to your question. So yeah, thanks everyone. And let me know if you'd be interested in having one of these events in your community. Happy to answer any questions that you got too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremiah. Yeah, I was able to attend that Longmont event. I think it was last week, and it was really useful. And I mean, there's just so much knowledge that people are hungry for. And we've been hearing at the state a lot about battery safety training and the desire to really understand the maintenance that goes into owning and operating one of those. And so I learned a lot, and there's definitely more to come there. So anybody have questions for Jeremiah? Cool. Well, thank you so much. I would encourage folks to check out COSA if you're not looped in already. They have a lot of great events in general. So big endorsement of their work.
Thanks, Julia. Appreciate it.
Cool. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have Adam with the Colorado Energy Office to round us out with some direct pay details.
Awesome. Thank you, Julia. So I'm actually here in the stead of one of my colleagues who was not able to be here, Christine Berg, but I work generally on buildings and building, decarbonization, but also have quite a bit of experience at the federal level with the IRA and tax credits. And so just wanted to give kind of a high level overview of the direct pay, or what the IRS calls elective pay, resources that are available for many entities that previously, before the Inflation Reduction Act passed, were not able to take advantage of clean energy tax credits. And so I think, we've heard a lot today about all the different resources that are available to help you identify projects and understand do analysis on projects. And I think a lot of times the question is also, how do we pay for projects, right? How do we fund these efforts? And I think that, of the Inflation Reduction Act provisions, the tax credits and certainly the direct pay provisions are some of the most critical to enable a lot of the, nonprofits and local governments to actually implement some of these projects. So essentially, federal direct or elective pay is that allowing tax exempt or governmental entities to receive the benefits or the direct value of tax credits for qualifying clean energy investments that, as I said, most of those entities were not able to take advantage of in the past. Examples of these types of entities are, listed here. So we're talking about 501 entities, tax-exempt entities, 501A, 501C, 501D entities, local governments, tribal governments, colleges and universities, rural electric cooperatives, and then political subdivisions. So that could include something like a special district, like a fire district or a water district or something like that. There is a process that entities that are now eligible for elective pay must go through in order to register with the IRS and also to file a tax return. So I know given that many of these entities are tax exempt, many of you may not have a lot of experience or past practice of filing tax returns, but as a practice now that will be required in order to be able to take advantage of these credits. Many of the technologies that we've heard talked about today are eligible for these direct elective pay credits, which includes energy storage, wind, geothermal, solar, EV charging infrastructure, and others. And so there are really great opportunities here, both for these individual technologies, but also, as is necessary for microgrid development, combinations of different technologies as well, and the ability to finance all of those through federal tax credits. So as far as amounts for tax credits, the baseline investment tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act is a 6% tax credit, as you can see there in that last little section. And that becomes multiplied by 5 times if a project involves paying prevailing wages. So these are wages that are consistent with the regional wage in the area where the project is taking place. And so that would bring, projects that involve pay prevailing wages as part of the development of the project would be able to increase that value from 6% to 30% of the tax credit, which is obviously a huge adder. And then on top of that 30%, we're also looking at additional potential adders depending on the conditions or geographic location of where that project is taking place. So looking at things like domestic content. So if there are projects that are being built with like domestically produced materials, domestically produced products or equipment, that can be included as part of an additional 10% increase. And then also looking at energy communities. So this is based on where the project is located. So if your jurisdiction or your project is located in a community that has been traditionally disproportionately impacted by fossil fuel development or other energy products, the IRS has identified where in the country those communities are, either the census tracts where it's happening or adjacent census tracts. And if projects are being developed in those areas, they're eligible for an additional 10% adder for those tax credits. So that can get you up to 50% of a project being financed by a federal tax credit alone, let alone other resources that are available, which we'll talk about next. So next slide, please. So when you look at direct pay or elective pay, there's a couple of important things to be aware of. One of the biggest pieces of this is that you are actually able to combine elective pay, the tax credits that you receive, with other financial resources, which can include grants, loans, local investments. All of those different pieces are able to be combined with federal tax credits in order to essentially get you to high levels of coverage of a project cost, and in some cases could get you all the way to 100% of a project cost being covered. And I think one of the things that's really important to note, though, is that, as we talk about combining all of these different funding resources, we're not talking about getting to where you can make money on these projects, right? So all of these combined resources between grants, loans, direct pay tax credits cannot exceed the total amount of the investment. So just on the right side of the screen here, you can see just an example of if you have a project, say you're upgrading your municipal building to have a geothermal heating and cooling system. That is eligible for one of the federal tax credits, and say that project were to cost $150,000. We just gave some examples of different ways you could combine these resources. So, if it's a $150,000 project, you might be talking about up to $75,000 tax credit if you are eligible for all of those different adders to get you up to that 50% tax credit threshold. And then, potentially you could get federal grants to cover part of it. You could get grants from DOLA or other state agencies to cover it. You might have municipal funds that you're able to put into to cover part of the project. And so by working together with all of these different resources, you can actually put together a pretty competitive portfolio where, in this example, the municipality is only paying $30,000 of the $150,000 value of the project. Next slide, please. So how to get your clean energy tax credits. So I think that this is, as I said, there are a couple of new things that tax exempt entities are going to have to be doing that they may not be traditionally done in the past. So any projects that began in tax year 2023, so the one starting on January 1st, 2023, which I guess we've technically passed now because tax returns were due in two days ago. But projects in that tax year and going forward are eligible for the direct pay tax credits. And then there are a few different pieces that you have to go through of the process in order to actually secure the tax credits. So first, you have to identify and pursue the actual project that you are going to be working on. You have to complete the project and place it into service. And the placing into service is the really important piece because most of the tax credits are specifically tied to when a project is finished and actually comes online, not necessarily when the project was started. And then you have to, based on that place in service date, you would determine what tax year that project was brought online, and that would be the tax year you would be applying for the credit in. There is a pre-filing process that the IRS has opened. It's available now. You can go to the IRS website, and we'll have some links to the resources where you can find some of this information on the next slide. But you will have to complete a pre-filing registration with the IRS, which essentially lets them know if here's the types of credits you are pursuing and are looking to earn. They will provide you a registration number for the property, and then all of that will be involved in filing your tax return. And so you obviously then have to file, once you have all that pre-filing information, then you have to go forward with filing your tax return by the deadline for tax returns. And you have to provide all the information that was done in the pre-filing. And then ultimately, once all of that has been completed and the IRS, evaluates and approves your tax return, then the payment will be processed for the reimbursement. Next slide. So just looking at a couple of these resources that are available. So obviously all of this work is done through the federal IRS. This is not a Colorado Energy Office or a Colorado Department of Revenue program or resources. So all of this will go through the IRS. And we just included some links here that have some information about direct pay, information about what qualifying tax exempt organizations are eligible for direct pay, as well as the IRS page that has a lot of the different links and resources on where you can find, information, say, on pre-filing or information on what eligibility or anything like that. So that is all I have, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Adam. That was a great overview. Anybody have questions for Adam or other questions that have come up?
Yeah, Adam, one quick question. I don't think Westminster has been adversely impacted by energy development, but how do I find that list to confirm that?
Yeah, so that IRS direct pay resources, I believe that page has a link to where you can find they have done an entire evaluation and analysis on which communities. So they do it at the census tract level and which census tracts fall within that energy community definition. And so once you go find that page and identify what census tract you're looking at, it will determine whether or not you are eligible for the energy community adder or not.
Okay.
So that should be through the IRS website.
And if I could go back to Jeremiah right quick, Jeremiah, noticed there haven't been any of your symposiums here in the metro area. Is there a reason why we haven't done that, or?
Yeah, so in the past, especially the last couple of years, a lot of the focus has really been on those large scale developments, and there's just not that much land in the Denver metro that's available for large scale solar development.
Okay.
We are trying to host a few this year that are going to be more focused on the Denver metro area and have some more of that kind of residential or smaller scale focus that would fit into more of the communities that are in the Denver metro. But that's kind of why we haven't yet. We're currently working on that and figuring out what the best way to approach that would be.
Okay, yeah, I'm just curious to see if I can get any interest in Westminster to see if we can convert at least the city facilities to on-site energy and stuff. But good, I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else?
I don't have a question. I have a comment. I think the direct pay is really cool, right? That is going to really broaden the access to funding and tax credits to a tremendous number of organizations. I know there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that, installing renewable projects, for example, is really aligned with their goals, but they don't have a tax burden to apply a tax credit for. So I'm pretty excited about that. And thank you, Adam, for really clearly explaining that.
One thing I'll mention too, sorry, my unmute button was not working. That's also really incredibly impactful with the tax credits is that unlike any grant program that the IRA creates or the infrastructure law creates, is that the tax credits are unlimited. There are no caps on how much can be financed through these tax credits. Unlike, we even hear just recently about the $20 billion that have been released through the greenhouse gas reduction fund through the EPA. And it's like, that's awesome. But that's a drop in the bucket compared to what these tax credits could be used to monetize. And so I think that these are really, now that they are eligible for all these different entities that previously were not eligible, it's a huge opportunity for local governments, states, nonprofits, college campuses, all of those types of entities to take advantage for clean energy projects.
Yeah, I agree. It's a huge hook, and it's probably beyond my capability to explain it to my finance people and leadership team. So, Adam, would it be possible if I can get interest from them, could I set up a call with you so that you could answer them directly?
Certainly. We're happy. I don't know if I will be the right person at the energy office, but someone at the energy office would certainly be happy to have that conversation.
And Greg, we'll have a recording of this too, and the slides available. So all those resources will be available.
Okay, great. Thank you.
For sure. Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you folks for sticking around to the very end. Hope some of this was useful for your communities. And thank you all to our panelists for doing these great overviews. We will post this online, and please reach out to me if you have any other questions or want to get connected to these folks through me, but you're welcome to reach out to them as well. So thanks so much, everyone, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.